Welcome to another episode of 10x Marketer podcast. I'm your host Gitari Sarin, and I have two gentlemen today, Ryan and Boris. They have both been on my podcast in past, and they have shared some great insights into PPC and how to grow your agency. Today, I've invited them for a roundtable discussion, and we want to dig more into Google Ads best practices, how PPC experts see them, and we want to understand like work behind the scene, how actually an expert use Google's recommendations and partnerships opportunities in their real life. So I would love to hear their insights and leave this entire episode to them and be a silent listener and just listen to them talking about it. So over to you guys. Quickly introduce yourself.
So hi, I'm Boris. I'm in the south of Germany. I've been doing this for an awful long time, but I've only ever started to write about PPC and Google Ads for the last, I think, 2 or 3 years. But I've been doing this for much longer, and I certainly have thoughts around the whole concept of best practices and recommendations from the part of Google.
Yeah, I'm Ryan Baker, founder of Kingly Consulting. I help marketing agencies increase revenue from their PPC services, and I've been running PPC ads myself, both white label and directly, and in working in agencies for the past 8, 9 years. I, similar to Boris, have been a little more active on online recently, sharing thoughts and opinions, and a good bit of that pertains to Google Ads, how Google is helping its advertisers, and some ways that we can kind of look at what they say, take the good, leave the bad, that sort of thing.
So let's start with a Google partnership program. I think that's one area where you both agree and you agree quite openly. So we would like to start with that. And for the benefit of audience, maybe you can talk a little bit about what it was in past, what it is now, and maybe how is it going to shape in the future. I'm talking about the Google partnership program for agencies.
Yeah, if you don't mind, I'll kick this off. I've got a lot of experience with Google partnerships, the Google Partner Program, as it's called now. So my first agency job was in a Google Premier Partner agency, which is both a blessing and a curse. I got to experience the best of what Google has to offer. In that they had wonderful reps. They were very kind people. I really liked them. I enjoyed spending time with them. I went to events with them, and they came to our office. They brought beer, and it was it was interesting to learn from Google reps. Um, so, but also it was a bit of a downside to start in a premier partner agency, because I was learning about Google Ads, and I was learning from reps and being told, okay, you're part of the top 1 to 3% of agencies in the world. And really, the agency I worked at, like, very, very good agency. They're very smart. They know their stuff. They're great at getting results for their clients, and have only gotten better since I left. But I found that that's not really because of their Google partnership. And the next agency that I worked with, I helped them become a Google partner, and we found very quickly there's a huge gap between Google Partner and Google Premier Partner, not in capability of the team, not in capability of the agency, not in the ability to get results, but in the service that Google provides them. And that's in large part because of the criteria for becoming a Google partner versus a premier partner, which is largely based on ad spend. So, how much ad spend are you managing? There are other criteria that they listed, but the most important is how much money are you spending every month on Google or managing. Um, and so, to be a Google partner, you have to spend, I want to say, $30,000 over 90 days, something like that, 10,000 a month, across all the accounts in your MCC or your manager account. And you have to be the oldest listed manager on that account to get credit for the ad spend in it toward your partnership program. And you also have to be certified as a certified Google Ads specialist in search and in the fundamentals. And in the first time I took those courses, you could Google the answers. You still can.
Mm.
And
Yep.
I initially had to because I knew a bit about Google Ads and how to manage it. These tests don't have anything to do with Google Ads or how to manage it. It's kind of strategy and theory to a degree. It's very high level. And some of it's just wrong, just flat wrong. They have a question now. I recently took the Skillshop kind of newer certification, and just out of curiosity, I don't study for it anymore. I don't Google the answers. I just answer because I've been doing this for a long time. I'm very proud to be able to score high enough to pass without studying. But the questions that they're starting to ask now are things like, if you increase your optimization score by 40%, how much will your performance increase? And the correct answer is 40%. So they're
Oh
saying there's a
my.
1-to-1 correlation between your optimization score and your performance, which is a bold-faced lie, because I have seen I've seen campaigns in my accounts that have a 0% optimization score that outperform every other campaign in that account. So they've shifted, and we can probably discuss this. You've created a whole lot of content about this. The service provided to Google partners used to be much more along the lines of, we're going to give you access to beta features. We're going to provide services to help you optimize your data feeds, or we're going to help you understand these services, or just a lot of support. Well, now it's all sales. It's okay, yeah, but you're our partner, so how much are you spending on YouTube ads? Well, these are local service-based businesses. They don't have video production budgets. They wouldn't even really benefit from video the same way that maybe an e-com or coaching business would. Still benefit, but not to a 20% of ad spend kind of degree.
Yeah.
And so there are weird criteria for maintaining your partnership, and a lot of the way that Google's partner program reps are incentivized is based on adoption of these recommendations and features,
Mm.
which from my experience and numbers I've heard from people who have run tests, really only hurt and rarely help. So that's my huge opening
Yeah.
statement.
So,
Do with that what you will.
can I just say I agree with everything you said. I cannot directly speak to the quality of the Premier Partner program or anything like that, because I've never worked for an agency that actually was a Premier Partner. When I used to work in house, for a big Swiss B2C brand. We did have reps that were directly assigned to us, and I can confirm that working with those reps was such a breeze. Like, we got invited to the Google offices in Zurich. They came to visit us each quarter, and of course they came with their sales pitches and all. You should really try YouTube, or back in the day, you always was, this is going to be the year of mobile. Please get your mobile landing pages in check and all of that.
Yeah.
But nevertheless, um, very knowledgeable people. They were able to troubleshoot whenever we ran into issues. They would be able to escalate when we really had issues with billing or disapprovals inside of Merchant Center and stuff like that. And from everything I hear these days, and of course with my own dealings with Google reps, I can confirm that that level of support has deteriorated quite considerably, and it's all just a giant sales pitch at this point in time. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So I worked with a Premier Partner agency in 2 years ago, and really the biggest decline I saw was post COVID, during COVID and post COVID, where Google support went from you call in and you get different tiers of service based on your partnership status. So if you have a Premier Partner agency and you enter the customer ID number for the MCC. You get the highest initial tier. There are
Yep.
higher tiers for
Mm.
direct, dedicated kind of support, but you get a higher tier of support, and then a partner agency would get maybe one or two tiers below that, and then somebody with one account spending $500 a month, bottom of the barrel, get in line. Now, if you're not a partner, or if you're not spending enough money, I have access to a lot of different MCCs. I'm a white label ad manager, and I run an agency for that. And I only have a couple of MCCs that qualify for even talking to a person anymore.
Mm.
Most of the time, they're just like, I don't want to talk to you. You don't spend enough money. Click.
Yep.
Which is not the message they share, but it's
Mm.
call back another time.
Yep.
Um, and that the dedicated service, even with the MCC that can get me in to talk to someone, you're talking to someone who is a gatekeeper, and the gatekeeper
Mm.
will take the information, the problem that you have. They'll put you on hold for 15, 20 minutes, so that they can reach out to an expert or fill out a form that you would probably be
Mm.
able to fill out yourself,
Yep.
and then send it to a specialist. And the specialist will then get back to you via email within 24 to 48 hours sometimes. Sometimes it's about the thing that you called about, sometimes it's not.
Yep.
And if there's a miscommunication or anything, you could be waiting 2 weeks before you get to the crux of the matter. So support in Google Ads, even for partners, has decreased dramatically. And in the Premier Partner Agency I was working with just a couple of years ago, they were Premier partners, and so they had access to a dedicated rep that could escalate things to a higher tier of service. But it was the same experience. And most of the time they were just saying, I'm sorry, there's nothing I can do. I can't get you an implementation team. I can't get you um, direct answers to this. Like, I know you're dealing with this account suspension. I know ads have been off for a couple of weeks. There's all I can do is try to escalate it to a higher tier of service, but it was still handled via email. It was still just clunky is a good word for it.
Oh wow. That
So
seems like not the ideal way to be doing that, huh?
yeah, I've found that anymore, and I think that I'm seeing more and more partners and premier partners foregoing their partnership status. They'll let their partnership
Yep.
status lapse,
Mm.
and it's because being a Google partner or premier partner is no longer a benefit. And I think the real value is the perceived credibility on part of the uneducated market, and I don't mean that in a
Mm.
derogatory way.
Sure.
They don't know what's happening on the inside like we do, and so they see, oh, partner, premier partner, they're really good. And I
Mm.
see partner or premier partner, and I'm like, oh, great, more phone calls to ignore from Google. I get like
Yep.
6 calls a day, and it's just people, now they're threatening to reach out to our clients directly, and like, hey, if you don't call me and listen to my sales pitch, I'll tell your client that you're not doing a good job and that they're losing a bunch of money. So now some of
Ooh.
my clients are going in and
Mhm.
making changes based on Google's recommendations because they're getting through to them. And then they'll reach out to me, hey, I made all these changes. I didn't know things were in such a bad state. And then I have to tell them things were not in a bad state. And you've just wasted, you increased your budget to $11,000 a month when you wanted to spend 1,500. And they're like,
Exactly.
really?
And it got you two conversions more, by the way.
If
Think
that,
about that. Yeah.
yeah.
So okay.
Yeah, it's so when we talk about taking things with a grain of salt,
Mm.
Google partnership, Premier partnership, not what it used to be. And there are some reps who are still excellent.
Yeah.
Most agencies will not have access to them. They are few and far between.
Mm.
And even their hands are tied.
Oh
So,
yeah.
so their hands
That's
are tied. That's more important point. It's like Google's guideline to maybe sell more than help
Yeah, well,
more.
they'll be fired or demoted or
mm.
something like that if they don't get their account to adopt the features that they need to adopt to a certain percentage,
Yeah.
maintain the appropriate level of ad spend. So in some of the agencies I worked at in the past, the Premier Partners in particular, they've had a big push to get more people to spend on YouTube, more people to spend on discovery campaigns at the time, which are now have been
Yeah.
upgraded to demand gen. Which, I mean, it's cool in theory. Like Performance
Yep.
Max is cool in theory. So sometimes it works.
So I think in between COVID and now, two things have changed. One is, of course, the premier partner tag or the badge has been exploited by agencies to their gullible customers. That's one. And second is, somehow Google started seeing agencies as hindrance between more spend and the client than a helping hand to help clients spend more. So now they have kind of changed the KPI in a way that if you're helping us getting more spend, then you are good for us. If you are somehow stopping the client from spending more, then you are not for us. Maybe you are against us in somehow. So I have a friend who is kind of working with some insider information from Google, not ready to verify on a podcast like this. But his point is that the inner working or the goal that has inside their PPC team is they want to make agencies as irrelevant as possible, and we have seen so much effort in that direction. They want to make running ads so easy that anybody can do that, and they don't require the agency. So that's the kind of approach that they have. And in if that's the scenario, then they don't need agencies, right? The partnership program is of no use.
Yeah. Boris, you want to speak to
Mm,
this?
I mean, if I was to play devil's advocate, then that would be the line of thinking. If I was at Google and I was looking at the next big push to increase our revenue, then yeah, probably I'd be looking long and hard at agencies and at ways I can cut them out, cut out the middleman, and speak directly to the clients. Now, what that entails, I'm not sure, because then, I mean, that's also going to be a cost factor for Google. Remember, they don't do anything without weighing the pros and cons and calculating, like, is this gonna increase our bottom line or not? If we're going to cut out agencies, we're going to have to hire more reps in some sort of capacity. That's going to balloon our cost, and then there's going to be always a trade-off. So probably they don't see that trade-off right now, but some of those frustrations that Ryan also described, for sure point in that direction, like reps trying to go directly to the clients, reps directly threatening that they're going to talk to the clients. Take my meeting, or I'm going to talk to your client. I mean, I've been there as well, and it's not funny, because us as freelancers or agency owners, or however, in whichever capacity you're working with your clients, we always have their best interest at heart, fundamentally, because we want that relationship to stay intact and healthy for as long as possible. Otherwise, we're going to lose clients, and we're going to go out of business, and we don't want to go out of business because we need to eat. So that's that. So yeah, there's this rift between Google for sure and agencies, and it's been getting deeper over these last couple of years. And yeah, I've seen agency owners letting their premier status lapse quite publicly on social media, making a big event out of it, which should tell you something if you were Google, because those should be your some of your biggest cheerleaders, because they
Mhm.
know how powerful the product can actually be. So yeah, that's sort of the situation I'm seeing at the moment.
Yeah, I would agree. And I would say that the only positive side in Google's perspective that I can see, and again, like you said, they're incredibly bright. They have so many smart people
Mm.
over there pouring all their time and energy into these problems. So they've thought of every angle. The only things that I can think of off the top of my head with my limited, knowledge and experience is that, if companies, a smaller business in particular, I think the larger businesses, they're going to have in-house teams. They're going to have, more understanding of the value of an agency.
Yeah, so next point of like something that is discussed frequently in PPC circle is Google's recommendation and the optimization score.
Hmm.
And it's not so liked by many PPC experts, but it is something that has been projected as like only thing you need to do in an account to get good results. So maybe uh, I would like to hear your thoughts on that as well.
Hmm. So maybe I start with that question. Um, so as anything, I think optimization score and the recommendations are rooted in some sort of truth. The truth is, on average, that sort of stuff tends to work. But now, unfortunately, not every advertiser is the average advertiser. So you have to take everything Google says with a grain of salt, right? If you're a multinational e-commerce, are you going to benefit from YouTube or from Broadmatch or from Performance Max? I would suggest that's going to be the case. But if you're a local based lead gen spending 5K, like a vet clinic or something, yeah, then there's not going to be as much use in running Performance Max for you, for instance, or display ads or YouTube, right? So all your budget is going to be best handled by search campaigns and with keywords that are answering that very immediate need that someone has, and then they type it into Google search, like emergency vet clinic, and then it's your job to be showing that ad. um, so you should not totally disregard optimization score, but you should also know that if you dismiss recommendations, your optimization score will go up also, right? Um, so just because a Google rep is telling you that your optimization score is woefully low, that's usually not a sign to be concerned if all your metrics and KPIs and conversions are firing correctly. And same is with all the AARs, auto applied recommendations, in the name of account hygiene. Um, that's the wording du jour that I hear all the time. Account hygiene could be better. Have you ever considered switching on some of those recommendations? And again, look through the recommendations, determine if they make sense. Does it make sense for you to switch over to a smart bidding strategy? Or are you better served with your particular business and with your needs and with your budget and with your strategy and your KPIs? Are you maybe better suited with a, manual bidding strategy? Um, and I think that's the most important point I want to drive home with this. There is some truth baked into all the recommendations and OptiScore as well, but keep in mind that it's a diagnostic tool, and it could be pointing to things that are potentially going wrong in your account, but it's not always the case. And you shouldn't panic if a Google rep calls you and says, "Hey, your agency is messing up in a big way here."
Yeah, really, really good points. I would just kind of to piggyback on that. So, we'd mentioned earlier in the partnership or the certification course, they'll ask about correlation between optimization score and account performance, and then they all but promise that you will have a 1-to-1 percentile increase in performance for increasing your optimization score. But if you can dismiss recommendations and get the same percentage increase, is that going to increase your performance to dismiss the recommendation? So I think that's a bold-faced lie.
Mhm. Yep.
And so I think this also highlights the importance of having someone that knows what they're doing managing your account. So if you are a business owner, Google is technically trying to help you understand what's going on in your account by making recommendations. But I guess it's less that the end goal to a lot of these recommendations is spend more money. And I've had reps in the past say, yeah, but if we help you get conversions, that's more likely to get you to stay longer and spend more money, which makes sense.
Hmm.
But I've spoken to a man, and I won't name his name just because I didn't ask for permission to do that. But he had access to has access to tens of thousands of accounts, and he ran a study on optimization score, and he found that the average performance change for accounts that took a lot of Google's recommendations was a 21% decrease in performance from accepting recommendations.
Hmm.
And this was across a wide variety of accounts. And so focusing on maintaining a high optimization score feels good because of the dopamine release, of seeing the bar increase. It's like ad strength. It feels good to get an excellent score
Yep.
instead of a poor score. But sometimes ads with poor scores outperform ads with excellent scores, 2, 3, 4
Funny
to
how that
1.
works. Yep.
It is.
Yeah.
And I play video games. I know how it works.
Mm.
My mind likes to make progress. My mind likes to see those scores increasing, and clients are no different. Everyone's brain is designed this way. These are intentionally designed features. So I will say that the recommendations, like you said, you should look at them, but you should consider, why is this recommendation being given? Yes, it says on average there are 18% more conversions, but then it will tell you that the source is like global data from a particular month. And global data is going to include, e-commerce brands spending $1 million a month, or
Mhm.
large B2B, companies spending, similar amounts, or a couple $100,000 a month. And then also, Joe the plumber down the road who is
Yep.
spending, $100 a month and just doing his best. And, having the average between all these things, there are going to be outliers. Even if you take 10 plumbers with the same amount of ad spend, a
Mhm.
plumber with a well-established brand who's been serving the area and is well loved and has 500 Google ad reviews and a 4.5 or 5-star rating is going to outperform, probably pretty dramatically,
Mhm.
all of the other plumbers if they don't have those same factors. So you can't take even 10 different accounts in the same industry with the same ad spend, same size cities and everything,
Yep.
and look at them as the exact same. So you have to be careful with averages.
Okay, so the other point of contention that most PPC guys might have is the performance max campaign, because I also do a lot of SEO, and one of the things that really hurts is you gained organic ranking and suddenly there is a performance max, and that would take even the organic query and start giving you the sponsored ad even for your brand.
I mean, truth be told, that's not only a case of a performance max campaign, but that's also a case of a just normal branded search campaign with lots of extensions and plenty of real estate, and then depending on the query, you might have the shopping box above that even, or to the side. So I mean, that's been Google's play for a very long time now, and SEOs, rightfully or not, when we can argue about that, but they've been complaining about their good, honest, hard work being just um, desecrated by Google ads. So it's not only a case of the performance max, but I get where people get frustrated with performance max, because it was promised to be this big thing, that was going to be so easy to set up, which it is. Um, but you can also mess up way faster and burn way more money by using performance max than if you were just to use all the other campaign formats that you have at your disposal. So that's
Especially if
what.
you have page view conversion actions.
Exactly. Just incinerate money. I always I always compare all the Google campaign formats to just different tools that you have in the toolbox, right? You're just right. You have a specific job at hand, like that might be to drive the nail, or that might be to saw the thing, or whatever it is, and you don't have to use the same tool for different tasks. Sometimes you're just, sometimes it's enough if you just used search campaigns. Sometimes you be using shopping, or it's not a given that people have to use Performance Max. I think that's the biggest frustration I get when I go into new ad accounts and they're just so heavy on Performance Max, because somehow that was the promise, that it's going to be so easy to set up and it's going to self optimize over time. There's nothing much you really have to do anymore.
Yeah,
And
but
I think
there's a saying, if you have a hammer, everything looks like a nail.
exactly that's what I was getting at. But thanks for saying it.
Yeah, I mean it's a great point, really. So Performance Max, you have accounts where you take access from the previous agency or whatever, and you see, oh, $900 a day on Performance Max and $10 a day on a search campaign, and that's the entire account.
Why?
Um, and in some cases, it's performing enough,
Hmm.
but anything goes wrong, and suddenly all of that spend is going toward display ads and like low cost dynamic search for
Yep.
brand. And so I to kind of roll back a little bit earlier, we were talking about SEOs being frustrated, or the impact of Performance Max on SEOs. And I think I've worked with a lot of SEOs over the years, and some who I mean just unparalleled geniuses. I've been very fortunate in that regard, but they're not worried, and they're still crushing it, and they're finding that if you do the right things there, same with Google Ads, if you do the
Hmm.
right things, then you still get the results you need. Sometimes you have to adjust, but if brand searches are the thing that your SEO is relying on, you're gonna suffer regardless. But you also have a lot of businesses don't want to run paid campaigns for their brand name. And I understand that. There are a lot of reasons I think it's important to do so, namely that there are others who are going to be targeting your brand name.
Yep.
Almost doesn't matter. The Google will show, even if you're not targeting specifically the name, in some cases, other people's ads for your brand name search, because like if you have a more generic business name and it's similar to the product or service someone's searching for, well, guess what? Other people are targeting those keywords, whether
Yep.
they're targeting your brand or not. And also you are training the algorithm to recognize your customers, so the account benefits from having that data, even if it is your brand search. So yeah, you might pay a couple bucks for a conversion. It's
Hmm.
going to be well worth it in the long run to have that data and to make sure that you're maintaining your market share and not losing it to competitors.
Yep. Plus,
All
if I
right,
can
so
add,
I would take your
it's
both of your views on one thing. What is the right way to set up a performance mix campaign? If at all you have to set it up.
there is no right way to be setting up a Performance Max campaign.
It
Um,
depends. Yeah.
it exactly. Case closed. It always depends on the business. It depends on the product. It depends on the different product categories that you have. It also depends on the financials of the business and on the margins and profits that you're able to drive with either a given product or a product category. Um, that's the one part you should always take into consideration, and the other part is your available budget. So recent developments inside of Google Ads, so that's not only pertaining to Performance Max, has made it important to consolidate account structures as much as you can. So if you're starting out with a lower budget, then we totally could be looking at one Performance Max with just two or three different asset groups broken out by category, for instance. If you have more budget, and you want to be able to control spend a bit better, then you might also end up with two or three Performance Max campaigns, either feed only or full builds, which are broken out by any logic that might apply to your business. So that's the best answer I can give to that question.
Yeah, nothing really to add. I guess other than I would say on occasion, so it does tend to be associated with e-commerce, and you mentioned earlier, don't run for lead gen. I would largely
Yeah.
agree. I have seen rare cases where testing for lead gen on a lower spend can produce leads. Generally, you get it steals from the brand campaign,
Hmm.
or you get lower quality leads. So if you're running Performance Max and you're hearing a lead gen client complain about lead quality, pausing the Performance Max often solves that problem.
Yeah.
But there are times where if you're going to test it, it can be worth testing. Just start with a very low budget and know that it's, Boris called it an incinerator for a reason. If it will start with a trickle of impressions across various audiences or users based on search or their audience viability, and then they will, if you get a conversion action, which is why it's important to have the appropriate conversion actions in the account, proven, tested to be the right conversion actions and working, but also the appropriate conversion actions for this campaign's goal. If it gets that conversion action, it will dump gasoline on that spark until you have a forest fire. So just and that's something Mike Rhodes kind of discovered and taught about pretty early on. I believe he's been on the show as well. So check that out after you've watched us wax poetic. So that's my Performance Max thoughts.
All right, so we have covered performance max. Now, there's a lot of changes in terms of AI and in terms of way the search engine is behaving and looking these days. And I think these are signs of some future updates that Google is going to push. What do you think is going to change that when it comes to Google search campaign in particular, and maybe also the performance max?
Well, I think for search ads in particular, we're actually going to see a lot of low quality headlines and descriptions from people that don't want to write their own ads, and they see Google as a solution. They're the AI tools, because they're largely being directed right now. The generative AI tools are being directed toward helping us create ads, which is it can be nice. I use it as kind of an idea palette sometimes.
Yeah.
But using it as ideas and then applying your own understanding of human psychology, buying psychology, why you would want to structure an ad in a certain way, and then actually how many headlines you actually want to create. It's not always a good
Mhm.
idea to create 15 headlines and 4 descriptions. So, if you have a lower ad spend, you might want 3, 4, 5 headlines, 2 or 3 descriptions. If you still want that testing, and then sometimes, like I used to be completely against pinning headlines, and then I realized that was not reasonable, and I was just listening to Google. So pinning headlines makes a lot of sense, and I do like the idea of pinning 2 or 3 for the first position, pinning 2 or 3 for the second position. So if you're going to create
Mm.
more headlines, if you just have all of these ideas, then yeah, put them in, but consider where they would be best served. So I think AI can be really helpful for coming up with ideas and getting you a shortcut from blank page to finished ad copy. But I would caution you, certainly for the time being, against relying on it for producing a polished finished product with the likelihood of outperforming something that you could do yourself with thought and
Mm.
understanding behind it.
I agree. Um, I think, like you said, Ryan, the factor of AI being able to help with campaign setups or ideation or just brainstorming in general, that's great, and I've been using it for exactly that purpose.
Mm.
It's cool that you don't always wake up super inspired each morning and be like, "Yo, let's just churn out the best performing ad copy ever. Like that, it
Yeah.
doesn't work like that. Um, and now I've lost my train of thought. Not sure where I was going with this, to be honest.
Not a problem. Not a problem. I think there was a good cutoff
Yeah.
point in there somewhere. I would just say as far as like editing goes. I used
Yeah,
to do video production, so so my mind thinks
exactly.
that way sometimes.
AI is going to edit all of that, right?
Yeah, you
Yeah,
got it.
right. AI
For
should try
sure.
doing that.
Okay, okay.
But I'm
Um,
not using AI to edit my episodes. It's all right. We can
okay,
keep it. It's not a problem. At least
okay,
people should know that we are humans, not the AI avatars.
for sure. I mean, now I actually remember it was what I was going to say. Um, that we shouldn't blindly trust AI when setting up and running and optimizing campaigns. And I think it was Brett Geddes who said that um, advertisers win when they exert control. And I think that's a very important lesson that you can learn. Um, Other than very large scale scenarios where you can't be very hands on, um, you should absolutely look at ways to make your message more clear. Um, Focus on what's really working in the accounts. How do you do that? Match types, pinning of headlines, applying lots of negative keywords, not using performance max if you don't have to, um, optimizing all the points of input that you have for your account, right? So that's the Google Shopping feed. That's also your landing pages. Your SEO plays a huge role in everything that At the end of the day, AI is going to read off your website and your product descriptions and your images and your headlines and all your structured data. So there's plenty of work to be doing all the time, even even though you probably shouldn't be working in the account as much as we used to, for sure.
Yeah, and I think that's a great point. First, don't make too many changes now that machine learning is
Mm.
such an important part, and important distinction between generative AI and machine learning. Machine learning is more feed it data, let it run scenarios, and it
Yep.
takes the data to make better decisions over time, which is what Google Ads is largely based on. Generative AI is more kind of let me create content from a prompt,
Mm.
and with that distinction, the machine learning really is the thing that we want to understand, and then the generative AI is something that we can kind of use to help us get the end result faster. But at the end of the day, the most important thing is going to be, how well do we understand our customers? How well do we understand the problems and the pain they're experiencing? How well can we communicate the value we can provide, the outcomes that we can generate for them with our product or service?
Mm.
And how well can we translate all of that into Google Ads platform to target the right people with the right message at the right time, with the right offer and the right landing page? So it's just this combination. um, AI and machine learning, Google's recommendations, they can be helpful tools for focusing our knowledge and focusing, maybe even bringing something to our attention that may have been outside of our knowledge or outside of our focus, and
Mm.
helping us, determine, okay, is this good? Yes or no? Is this good? Yes or no? But understanding our craft, understanding our customers, understanding the offer, the pain, humans at the end of the day, that's really going to be the most important factor to success.
Okay, so my question was slightly different, but I would rephrase it and put it in a way that you can understand. So, with a lot of generative AI coming into the search results, the search engine interface or the Google's search interface is somehow getting impacted. It's going to change. People have already seen generative AI answers coming on top of places where Google ads used to come or search ads used to come.
Mm.
Do you see that going to impact the search ad performance in particular, and how agencies or people like us are going to react to any change like that?
Yeah, I mean, I'll go real quick and I'll let
Yeah,
you
sure.
check.
Yeah.
I can see us both gauging. Okay, who's going to say first? Uh, I I think that So if you have various different campaign goals, right? So with search campaigns, generally the quote bottom of the funnel are those who are ready to buy, the people you're targeting who are ready to make a decision to work with you. Um, those are the ads that I think will be much less affected. But further up, generative AI responses in Google search results tend to be more around answering questions. And I think a lot of those questions are going to be, um, most of the time, smaller accounts would not be running ads to answer those questions with like a blog article or something like that. Larger accounts or accounts that are more dialed in, or accounts that don't have a lot of search volume for with high intent search volume, as we might say, people who are ready to buy, they might be targeting those to educate the market before they're ready to buy. And it will affect them more heavily, but you still have kind of non-search channels where you can kind of pre-educate based on audience-based criteria. Um, there are ways of avoiding pain from this change, I think. But I think it'll have minimal impact from my experience with it so far. Granted, my experience with Google's generative results are somewhat limited. And what I've seen so far is not a replacement, because that would affect Google's revenue directly to lose out on that. So I don't think they're going to do anything that'll hurt them like that.
Hmm. So I'm not sure actually how qualified I am to be answering the question, because in Germany we don't have AI overviews yet. We get like all the good stuff last. Okay, so
Good
but
stuff.
good, however you want to call it.
Fair.
From what I can gather is that, I mean, like Ryan said, it's mainly about like multifaceted questions that you might be wanting to explore a bit more. So like the super straightforward commercial queries, I think, are going to be less impacted. But I think a very direct impact that you could be expecting, if you were to target those sorts of queries, is probably going to be more impressions and more clicks in the, not short run, but like intermediate time frame. I'd be expecting more impressions and clicks around those sort of topics. I think that also got shared during Google Marketing Live when they were talking about AI overviews and how searches with 4 or more words rose exponentially more than the normal 15% new searches that you get every day. Like that's been a number that's as old as time now. But yeah, so long answer, but sort of to make it short, I think we're going to see more impressions and clicks around informational queries, I guess.
Awesome. So before we conclude, because we already have been in this discussion for around 40 minutes now, uh, before we conclude, I would like to have concluding remarks from both of you.
All right. Well, yeah, I would just say, kind of my earlier point. I'll reiterate that the most important aspect of marketing and on any platform, in any regard, is to understand people, to understand the problems you're solving, the outcomes that your market desires, who it is you're helping,
Hmm.
how it is you're helping them, how to communicate properly. So all of these factors, they're things that Google doesn't really understand well yet. Maybe the people working in Google understand them. They've not found a way to automate successfully recommendations toward these ends. So their recommendations are largely around platform management, and maintaining certain metrics. And it's all very kind of cold, and empty in its
Hmm.
recommendations. So I would just reiterate that you want to understand people. You want to understand how to serve people. And in doing so, you can take what Google recommends and weigh it against the end goal of serving more people better.
Hmm.
And I think that's going to give you your North Star.
Boris?
I like that, Ryan. I think, and I've been thinking a lot lately about AI, how that's going to affect the future, how that's going to affect our line of work. Um, and I don't think it's all just doom and gloom, to be honest with you. It's of course it's being made out as a thing that's bigger than what it really is. And I think Google also admitted that it's still early days, and we're at the bottom of that curve of accelerated growth. So where it leads us, we don't know. But for the future, I'm fairly optimistic. We're always going to be needed. Um, I think it's also an exciting time. I mean, sure, we're losing data, we're losing tracking, but like you said, it's only forcing us to become good at marketing again. Who would have thought, right, that instead of dropping cookies everywhere and claiming credit for our little keyword campaigns, we'd be forced to just communicate the benefits and what's really in it for the client, what's the offer, how can I make it as easy for them as humanly possible to buy the thing or purchase the service, or you know give me their contact details, all that good stuff. So all in all, I may seem pretty grumpy sometimes, like as an online persona, but I think I'm pretty optimistic as of right now, at least.
It's a good time to be a marketer.
Yeah, for
Awesome,
sure.
guys. Yeah, that's good time to be a marketer, and that's good time to be even on the 10x Marketer podcast. Thank you for both of you for joining me today, and we will be releasing this episode soon. Before we close, I would quickly like both of you to just appeal my audience to subscribe to my channel.
Of course, subscribe to his channel. He's got the best marketing podcast in the world.
Yeah, I mean, we're both on it right now. He's had other amazing people like Mike Rhodes and Frederick Valets, and it's highly recommend. A lot of good content.
Yep.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Have a good
Thank you
time,
too. It
guys. Take care. Bye.
Yeah, thank
was a
you.
good time. Thanks.